the Glam Cam. I'm Rachel Barenbaum, author of A Bend in the Stars, and today I'm joined by R.L. Maizes, author of Other People's Pets. This is a super book. It just dropped. R.L., tell me, what is your book about?
The book is about an animal empath who was raised to be a burglar and who takes care of animals in the homes she robs.
Do you know how to pick a lock?
I know how to pick a lock to describe it in the book because I researched it, but I didn't actually pick locks. But I did a lot of research on lock picking.
How do you research lock picking?
This is really terrible, but there's all these YouTube videos. I probably shouldn't say this, but there's YouTube videos. There's YouTube videos on everything. Anything you want to know how to do, there's a YouTube video on how to do it.
How did you come up with this idea?
Well, I love animals and I adopt animals and I'm a vegan and I'm also concerned about animal suffering. And I thought it would be really interesting to write a character who could feel what animals feel physically and emotionally, and to watch her kind of as she moves through the world and to just imagine what that would be like.
So what do you want your readers to take away from Other People's Pets?
I hope readers take away that even if you didn't have the kind of childhood you might have wished for, or the kind of parents you might have hoped you would have, you can still thrive as an adult.
Last year, you published a book of short stories. Can you tell me how different it was to publish a book of short stories versus a full novel?
Sure. I'm just going to say that writing a novel is the hardest thing I've ever done. If I had known how hard it was going in, I'm not sure I would have elected to do it because it's just so hard. And that's not to say that stories aren't hard, but holding 300 pages in your mind at one time, figuring out all the plots and subplots, and making sure the character arcs all work, just tremendously difficult.
You published a great modern love piece in the New York Times. Can you tell us about falling in love through your dogs?
Sure, thank you so much. I met my husband, and he wasn't my husband yet, obviously. I met Steve. And one of our first dates was hiking with our dogs because he had one dog and I had two dogs. And so we took them on this hike, and it was hotter than I thought it was going to be. And I felt really bad because they were thirsty, they were hot. But he is so great that at some point on the hike, he just got down on one knee and realized this is probably our third date. And I'm like, and he's getting down on one knee, and I'm like, on one knee, and I'm like, no, because obviously, what you think. But what he does is he pours water into his palm and he gives it to the dogs. And it just moved me so much that he took care of my dogs as well as his. I just fell in love with him at that moment.
Getting a modern love column is sort of the holy grail for many writers. Do you have any advice to writers trying to break in there?
Wow. I don't know. I've submitted a lot of modern love essays before this one that did not get accepted. So the only advice I would have is, keep trying, especially if there are things you really want to write about. And then that way, if they don't get taken by modern love, hopefully you can place them somewhere else.
Did you see an effect? Did you see a bump in sales?
So the book wasn't quite on sale yet. I definitely saw a lot of increased interest in the book and in me. My website was just going crazy. People looking at the book and looking at the rest of my bio and things like that. So I think it definitely introduced people to me as an author in a big way, and that's great.
Yeah. So do you have any advice for writers who might be starting out, who are either writing short stories or full novels?
Yes. Don't listen when people tell you not to write something. I had people tell me not to write a collection because collections, they said, will never get published. They're too hard. Don't, to place. Don't write a collection. And then I had people, someone tell me, don't write the novel. And, in the end, you just have to write what you want to write.
Lala, the protagonist in Other People's Pets, is an animal empath. Can you tell me what it was like to get inside her head? How did you do that?
So I love magical realism. I love reading it. I love writing it. Some of my stories have magical realism. I just love that exercise of just going deep into your imagination to think, okay, if I could really feel the physical sensations of animals and the emotions of animals, positive and negative, how would I feel and what would I do? How would I act around animals? I just love that. And what would she be aware of in her surroundings, different than someone who maybe wasn't an animal empath? I love that journey. I loved imagining her.
Okay. RL, thank you so much for joining me today. I love the book. May you sell many, many copies.
Thank you so much, Rachel.